So thank you all for coming to listen to my final intern presentation here at the Richards Group. My story for today starts with an art professor from my school. When I first switched from journalism to advertising, I call this my honeymoon phase. I was exposed to all these really cool ads and all these interesting campaigns in my advertising classes, and it was love at first sight. I knew that I was in the right industry, until my art professor comes along. This is where my story begins. So it's the first day of class spring semester, and all the students are sitting around, going around introducing ourselves. So we're giving our name, where we're from, and our major. So when it got to my turn, I proudly stated that I was an advertising major. From across the room, my art professor scoffs at me. He makes the comment, "Why would I want to major in an industry that's greedy and full of crap?" Well, this comment took me a little by surprise, because here I am having the time of my life with this really cool major, and yet I met somebody who felt so negatively about it. And I couldn't understand how someone disliked something so much that I was so passionate about. So I came home that day asking myself, how can people dislike advertising? Have they not seen all the amazing commercials that I've seen in my art classes or my advertising classes? And I kind of find it a contradiction that here advertising is meant to make brands look good and to make companies look good, and yet it can't even make itself look good. So this is where my topic for today falls to. Advertising for the advertising industry. How can we get people to get passionate about advertising as much as I am? So how I'm going to take you through this is first, I want to talk about these negative views about the advertising industry. What are statistics? What are surveys saying? And then I also want to go into 2 solutions that I have for this. And I will go into further detail with one of those solutions and list examples to further demonstrate my point. And then lastly, I want to leave you with some final thoughts. And I even have a suggestion for the Richards Group. So first off, let's talk a little bit about these negative views towards advertising. So was my art professor the only one who disliked the industry? Well, it turns out he's not. There are a group of people in the United States who dislike the industry as a whole. These people may refer to us as used car salesmen. So when I said that I was an advertising major, there's a chance that this image popped into people's minds. They may instantly perceive the industry as greedy, sneaky, untrustworthy, kind of like a used car salesman. So according to a 2013 Gallup poll, advertising is one of the most negatively viewed industries in America. It ranks up there now next to healthcare, oil and gas, law, and used car salesmen.
And recruiters.
And advertising is viewed as one of the most dishonest industries. And then another survey conducted by Lab 42, they're a research company often used by Ad Age and Ad Week. They surveyed about 500 people, and from those 500 people, 3% described the claims made by ads as accurate. Only 3%. And then another 38% wish that the claims in ads were more accurate. And then another study conducted by the Pew Research Center found that 28% of people take steps to avoid online advertisers. And if you don't think that 28% is very impressive, they compare it to the 33% of people who take steps to avoid criminals and hackers. So if you think these statistics aren't bad enough, it gets worse. The beginning of this year, in 2014, a stock footage company released a commercial that pokes fun of the advertising industry. I'll play a clip here.
We think first of vague words that are synonyms for progress and pair them with footage of a high-speed train. Science is doing lots of stuff that may or may not have anything to do with us. See how this guy in a lab coat holds up a beaker? That means we do research. Here's a picture of DNA. There are a shitload of people in the world, especially in India. See how we're part of the global economy? Look at those farmers in China. But we also do business in the USA. I want you to think we do. Check out this wind energy thing in Indiana, and this blue-collar guy with dirt on his face. Also,
So I'm going to cut this a little short, but it's a good thing I'm here at the Richards Group, because at least we acknowledge that this is a problem. So much so that we include it on every single creative brief we produce. People don't like ads, people don't trust ads, and people don't remember ads. So from all these statistics and all these surveys and that video, this is the image that we're putting together. And to sum it up in 3 words, An article pulled from the Advertising Journal Review found that consumers will most likely view advertising with cynicism, distrust, and disrespect. And to make matters worse, we're going to be facing our toughest crowd yet. Millennials, people aged 20 to 37, are expected to spend $1.4 trillion in 2020. These millennials are going to be more diverse, they're going to be more educated, and they're going to be the most skeptical towards advertising. So that's something to think about. So when I hear the word cynicism, distrust, and disrespect, I ask myself, do I like hearing that? Do I like hearing those words about something that I love? And the answer is no, I don't. And I want to change that. I want people to love advertising as much as I do. So this is where my topic falls to for today. How can I advertise for the advertising industry? From now on, I want to look at advertising as a brand in itself. And I, as a brand manager, it is my responsibility to take care of that brand. So how can I do that? What are some strategies that I can use? Well, I propose 2 solutions that I think will get people to change their minds about advertising. The first is to advertise with honesty. This is a little obvious. It kind of is obvious, but every day, still today, I turn on the TV and I'll see a commercial that uses puffery and exaggeration to prove their point. And people can tell when you're faking it, so don't do it. My second proposed solution, this is the one that I'm going into further detail with today, is to start with the why. This is a strategy that I feel is going to be the most important, and I think will get us moving in the right direction for changing people's minds about advertising. So what does it mean to start with the why? This was a concept that was first introduced by a man named Simon Sinek. He's a leadership expert and TED Talk speaker. Simon defines start with the why as what is your purpose, what is your cause, and what is your belief. Again, what is your purpose, your cause, and your belief? And I keep repeating that because this is the fuzziest thing to define. It's the most unclear. But when you apply this to advertising, and you answer the questions, what is your purpose, your cause, your belief, you answer the question, why should I buy your product? And just as a note here, your company's purpose is not to make a profit. That's a result. And that doesn't answer the question, why should I buy your product? So again, what is your purpose, your cause, and your belief? So, okay, I'm a company, and I just answered what is my purpose, my cause, my belief. I started with the why. Now what? How do I make an advertisement from that? Well, he uses a strategy called the golden circle that converts your why into a messaging strategy. So first, as a company, you start with the why. What is your purpose, your cause, your belief? And then you answer the question, how? How do you execute this? And then the last question you answer is what? What comes out of it? So this is what I'm about, this is how I execute this, and this is what comes out of it. So let's apply this to a real life example. Let's use the company Apple. So Apple, we're going to start with the why. What is your purpose, your cause, and your belief? Well, Apple would answer, think differently, challenge the status quo. Why should I buy your product, Apple? Because we think differently, we challenge the status quo. Okay, so then we move on to the how. How do you think differently? How do you challenge the status quo? Apple says, we design simple and easy to use technology for all to use. And then lastly, what comes out of it is the what. So what comes out of it? We just happen to make computers. So this is the messaging strategy that Simon points out that will get people to be inspired. And so you're probably asking, why did I pick this strategy, start with the why? Why do I think that this is going to help save the advertising industry? And my thoughts on this is, in Simon's TED Talk, he explains that some of the greatest leaders of the world, from companies like Apple to people like Martin Luther King, use this strategy to inspire people to take action. So when you tell people, hey, this is what I care about, this is what I believe, there's a chance that they might care about it and want to believe in it too. And when you apply this to advertising, hopefully you can create some inspiring ads. And from inspiring ads, I hope that this will eventually lead to better attitudes about advertising. So let's see other examples aside from Apple. I want to show you different variations on how you can use start with the why. So I'm going to first start off with GE, General Electric. So GE is a 130-year-old company. They've been marketing for all that time, and they've learned a lot of important lessons. And one of their biggest lessons that they've learned is to stay true to itself, to start with the why. So what is our purpose, our cause, our belief? They go back to that, and then they create an advertising campaign from it. So they define their why as, we bring good things to life. We have a good idea, we bring it to life. So let's see how they use this in one of their recent ad commercials.
特にジェットスキーで海に出るときはもう本当に気持ちが解放されてとても自由な気持ちになります。この場所が非常に私にとって大事なのは、私のまず生まれ故郷であるというでいて、一軒一軒家を訪ねて、で何か医者は必要ないか全部聞いてまいりました。でそれやってるうちにですね、今度周りの小さな島を、これは患者さんが当然いるだろうということで行くようになったんです。超音波の機械を持って歩いてたんですね。それを取りに行かなくちゃいけないとか、電源が必要であるとか、でその点 V スキャンはいつも持って歩けるので、やる回数が増えて、でそうすると今まで分からなかったことがどんどん分かるようになってきた。顔笑ってるよ。すごい。医者としてもやりがいがあると常に感じています。これが生きがいになっているというところでしょうかね。
So how did GE use starting with the why in this commercial? Well, first we define their why, their purpose, their cause, their belief as we have a good idea, we make it happen. And then how is that executed? We do this through technology. And then what comes out of it? We make portable ultrasounds so that Japanese doctors can provide medical care for people who don't have access to it. So this is a strategy of using starting with the why. A different example that I want to show you is a nonprofit company. This is a company called Pro Infirmis, and they're a Swedish advocacy group that obtains rights for people with disabilities. Pro Infirmis is a charity, so their purpose, their cause, their belief is more easy to define. So they define it as improve the lives of people with disabilities. Pretty obvious. So let's see how they use this in one of their ad commercials. Actually one of my favorite ad commercials of all time. And I showed this to my art professor, and he was deeply moved. So much so that he was more willing to listen to what I had to say about my major. So back to starting with why. How did this commercial use starting with why? They're a little bit different than GE because they're a nonprofit. So we first defined their why is to improve the lives of people with disabilities. And then as shown in this commercial, how it was executed was to spread awareness of how people with disabilities are treated. So this commercial shows if you have a disability, in order for people to feel comfortable to hug you, you got to dress up like a bear and stand in the middle for people to approach you. And then what comes out of it, which we don't see in the video, is they obtain rights and support for people with disabilities. So then my last example is Guinness. Guinness is interesting because in the United States, they're a brand that's predominantly associated with Irish heritage. But in the US, they found that Guinness, as a brand, is regarded as somebody else's drink. And the company didn't like this. They wanted to change that. Guinness wanted people to love their brand as much as they love their brand. So they used starting with the why. And they defined their brand's purpose, its cause, its belief. So they defined it as, our deeds reveal what we are truly made of. And they used this as a source when they were creating recent ad commercials. And this is one that they came out with in July.
Good spot.
The choices we make reveal the true nature of our character.
So how did Genesee starting with the why in this commercial? Well, their why is we believe it's our deeds that reveal what we're truly made of. Okay, how is that executed? We salute people with real substance and those who do the right thing. So not only are we saluting people with turning war heroes, but also the people that make them feel welcome when they come home. So the woman providing him the Guinness when he returns. And then what comes out of it? We just happen to make beer of character. And this would in turn inspire U.S. drinkers to make more principled life choices and reach for a beer with more taste and character. So all three of these examples that I just showed you, I wanted to show you different variations on how you can use the why and how it can create inspiring ads. And I hope that when people see these ads, they will have their minds will be changed when they view advertising. And hopefully they will see advertising better. So I just threw this at you, and I want to leave you with some final thoughts. The first is, as brand managers, to keep advertising in mind. We are not only responsible for our clients' brands, but also the advertising industry as a brand. So when we're working on a new campaign or a new commercial, we need to ask ourselves, will this hurt or will this help the advertising industry's image? And then the last thought that I have for you guys is a suggestion for the Richards Group. Let's make a commercial for the advertising industry. I think we should show the world how much we love advertising and why they should love it too. And in the end, I hope this will inspire people to love advertising and not want to badmouth it anymore. And then for those of you who are wondering what happened to me and my art professor, we were not enemies the entire semester. In fact, we became very good friends. So much so that I would constantly be coming up to him, showing him a new commercial that I loved, and we would sit down and we would talk about it, and we would talk about why it was important to me. And at the very end of the semester, he sat me down, and he said that I was meant for this industry, and he wanted to thank me for changing his mind about something he hated. This is my ultimate goal with advertising, is to make people a fan of advertising instead of a foe. Before I hand the floor over to you guys for questions and comments, there's a question that you probably are already asking, and I want to address it right now. So the question probably is, what happens if your company does not have a why? I've debated this because it's a tricky question, but my stance on this, in my opinion, is that all companies should have a why. This marketplace is getting far too crowded and far too noisy, so we need to start distinguishing brands and make them stand out from the rest. And to do that, I feel, is to start with the why. Find their purpose, their cause, their belief, and make them look unique. And then another thing, too, you can't just make up a why for a company. You can't take Apple's idea for think differently and challenge the status quo. There can't be 100 different Apples out there. You have to find something that's unique and individual to your company. So that way you can stand out and you won't look fake like that stock footage commercial showed. And then lastly, people ask, well, how do I get passionate about Q-tips or Staples or a brand like that? And I say, we do it every day. I get excited about organ exterminating bugs and Quick Trip and gas stations. Why? Because there's something about that brand that makes me want to get up in the morning every day and work on it. There's something that's exciting that I see, a vision. So that's leads the way to starting with a why. Would anyone like to challenge me on this? I'll open the floor back to you for questions and comments.